Hello everyone, welcome to another NFL team preview video for the 2020 season. Today we're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles as we move on through the AFC East. So let's begin. Also, side note, if you watched the video yesterday I uploaded about the Dallas Cowboys preview video, you'll notice I'm still wearing the same Minnesota Wild gear because the Minnesota Wild won their playoff game yesterday against the Vancouver Canucks 3-0, and that's pretty exciting. So I'm going to do a little superstition thing where I wear the same stuff, post the video before the playoff game begins, and hopefully that brings them some luck. I'd like to think so. But that's probably not the case. I'm probably just, being naive. Anyway, let's move on to football because that's what you're all here for. Philadelphia Eagles. They've had a couple of different seasons, I would say, the past 2 years since that Super Bowl win over the New England Patriots. Yes, there's some. I think there's some bad blood still between Vikings fans and Eagles fans, but I'm not one of them. I'm not here for that. I put that championship game in the past. You kicked our asses and we deserved it. We were not ready to play that game. So no ill will here. I enjoyed the Eagles immensely. I was rooting for them in that Super Bowl against the Patriots. I love the Philly special. I love everything about it. It's fun, and let's just have a good time. Let's no ill will here. But I think what happened with this team the last couple of years, they just seem to keep finding themselves in situations where they're backing into the playoffs. 2 straight 9-7 seasons where you got to claw your way just to get in, and then you run out of steam and you're not able to get as far as you did in that 2017 season. So I think what they did during this offseason was they looked around and they said, hey, we still got a great group of core players from that Super Bowl run. We just need to get a little bit faster, a little bit stronger, and we need to get healthier because we're hurt all the time and we're just too slow. And I think during this offseason that they made some changes that are going to help accomplish them getting more competitive, more speed, and all sorts of things to open up the offense and keep the defense being as good as it is. Before we get into the projected starting roster, let's go ahead and take a look at the 2019 recap. They were 9-7 overall. Offense ranked 14th in the league. They were 11th in rushing and 11th in passing, so for the duo there for the 11s. Defense ranked 10th overall in the league. They were 19th against the pass, but they were 3rd against the run, so the run defense was pretty good. Doug Peterson is your head coach, entering his 5th season, a career record of 38-26 with the Eagles. Snapshot of the previous 4 years. In 2018, they were 9-7. 2017, they were 13-3. And then in 2016, they were 7-9. And 2015, they were also 7-9. Quick note as we enter in the what I'd like to call the season of unknown. Because with the whole pandemic going on, we just don't know how this is going to play out. And with baseball being the way that it is right now, I don't have the highest of hopes. But I'm going to continue on as if we're going to have a full season, and branching or using that as a point of departure to talk about Doug Peterson today, as I'm recording this earlier today, tested positive for COVID-19. So that throws a different kind of monkey wrench into things. And I just, I hope everybody's okay. I hope he's okay and recovers, without any real issue, without any issue whatsoever. But it's just something to sort of bring up as we continue on with these videos, because before I get into the projected starting roster, we do need to talk about the opt-outs. And this is probably the first team I've gotten to where recently a significant player has opted out, and that being Marquise Goodwin, who would have been one of their starting wide receivers, who came over in free agency this year. Well, no, he came over in the trade, I think. I think it was the trade. Yeah, the draft day trade, if I remember correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it's just something, important to bring up. I think most of the preview videos I've done so far, we haven't seen, or at least I haven't, seen an opt-out prior to it being uploaded. So this is one of those times where I felt it was kind of just important to acknowledge it, and we'll continue to do so going forward. Anyway, with that having been said, let's take a look at the starting offense, at least projected for this season. And first we're going to start with the quarterback, and that is, of course, Carson Wentz, who needs to do just a little bit better at not going into those funks like he had in the middle of last season. But those last 4 weeks of the season, he was really on fire. If the offense is improved around him, which I think it should be this year, Carson Wentz should be in for quite a career year. And taking a look at that offensive talent around him, starting with the running back position, we do have Miles Sanders. I think the running back, my committee, is dead in Philadelphia, and Sanders is going to be your guy. I believe Boston Scott will probably be the backup, taking over that Darren Sproles role. For the wide receivers, this is going to be a rebuilt unit with Jalen Reagor coming in through the draft, who is, I think a phenomenal player, super fast dude, and he should really stretch this offense, stretch the field for the offense as they desperately need. We also, of course, have Deshaun Jackson, and with the opt out of Marquise Goodwin and the injury to Alshon Jeffrey, who's probably not going to be ready this year, I struggled with who I should put in as their third wide receiver. Now Ward probably fits the bill better, but I think I'm just going to go with JJ Arcega-Whiteside for now because there's just too much potential for him coming. When he came out of college a few years ago, to just not get an opportunity, and I think he should. But I need to ask Eagles fans who are watching this, what do you think of JJ Arcega-Whiteside? What's your take on him? Am I making a mistake penciling him in here as a potential starter for wide receiver 3? Let me know. I was pretty enamored with him coming out of college, and I just don't know really what's happened to him, since he became a pro. But that's just a little off the wall thing that I'd be interested in knowing more about. For the tight end position, of course, we have Zach Ertz, who's one of the better tight ends in the league, and of course Carson Wentz's favorite target. They also have Dallas Goedert, Goddard, I forget how to pronounce his name. I slip with that a lot, so you'll have to excuse me. So they could definitely run 2 tight end sets if need be. And then for the offensive line, this is one of the bigger issues, I would say, because a lot of really good talent. It's just like one of those puzzles, like, where does the pieces fit for this? So for the left tackle position, I got Andre Dillard. Left guard, we've got Samalo, I think Samalo is how you pronounce his name. Jason Kelsey at center, Jason Peters at right guard, and then Lane Johnson at right tackle. And the reason for Peters being at right guard is, I'm assuming that the reason they re-signed him to that 1-year deal was to place him at that position because Brooks is going to be out for the year with his injury. So if this is incorrect as far as I have it here on the offensive line, I apologize because I'm not really quite sure what they want to do. And, I checked recently as recently as, Jason Peters didn't sign his 1-year deal all that long ago. So this is just me kind of assuming from an outsider's perspective what could happen. So if this is totally wrong, let me know in the comments. The reason I believe Andre Dillard could take over at left tackle is because I believe it's his time. He was one of the better pass protecting tackles coming out of college when he was drafted 2 years ago. Moving on to the defense, this defense is probably going to get better because they added Darius Slay in the offseason. Schwartz finally has a corner that he can do multiple things with. Rodney McLeod and Will Parks are your safeties. Not great, but not terrible. On the other side of Slay, you have Avonte Maddox. Nickel Roby Coleman will be your slot corner. And then the linebacker position is probably where they're thinnest, and with an undrafted free agent, TJ Ward, and then of course Jerry. It's not the most intimidating linebacker group you've ever heard of, so there's probably going to need to be some new blood infused in that position in the offseason to come. And I keep thinking, like, wow, what if they could get a shot at Dylan Moses in the draft? That'd be pretty sweet. For the defensive line, still one of the better defensive lines in the league with Barnett, Cox. Javon Hargrave was the big free agent acquisition this year for the defensive tackle spot. And then, of course, Brandon Graham. Am I the only one that's kind of surprised that they picked up the 5th-year option on Barnett? I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one. But anyway, that is your projected starting roster for the 2020 season for the Eagles. And of course, we will take a look at the schedule, which, yikes, a little bit of a yikes early on. So we open up on the road with the Washington football team, and then 2 home games with the Rams and Bengals, and then this is where the yikes comes in. The 49ers and the Steelers on the road, and then back home against the Ravens. That is a murderer's row of playoff teams if I've ever seen one, back to back to back. And then, of course, we round out the first half of the season with the Giants and the Cowboys. So pretty tough first half. I think these first 3 games are going to be the key. How well are they going to perform in these first 3, what I would call winnable games? The Washington football team has a long way to go to be competitive. The Rams seem to be slipping up just due to their horrendous cap situation. And then you have the Bengals, who are, of course, going to be breaking in a rookie quarterback. They're in full rebuild mode. I definitely think, especially that being a home game, that's a game that you should pencil in as a win. So I think this team should go 3-0 to start the season. Then after that, it's anybody's guess, because the 49ers, the Steelers, and the Ravens are all very good. Very, very good. So those should be 3 marquee matchups for the Eagles in the first half of the season. And of course, you got the Cowboys, who are going to be ultra competitive this year. And probably the Eagles and Cowboys will be fighting each other for this division crown, no questions asked. The Giants are, one of those games that's probably winnable. So at worst case scenario, I think you're 4-4 at the end of the first half of the season. So, but you're going to need to take a couple of those games from those marquee matchups in order to enter the second half, and with the attitude of not having to back into the playoffs this time. For the second half of the season, the bye week is week 9. You have road games against the Giants and the Browns. Seahawks come to town. Always nice not to have to travel to Seattle. I'll say that every time. Road game against the Packers, home game against the Saints, Cardinals and Cowboys on the road, and then we end the season at home against the Washington football team. It's not the most daunting of schedules, but there is some serious competition there within, and highlighted by those that one 3-week chunk in the first half. So it's going to be an interesting season, tough season for the Philadelphia Eagles, no questions asked. 3 big storylines that I'm looking at. Jalen Hurts, he was the big talk of the draft, which I liked the rest of the draft. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate the Jalen Hurts pick whatsoever. It's just kind of weird how they try to justify it. It's like, we want to be a quarterback factory. Look at the success we had with Nick Foles, and then he moves on to another team. That's great, don't get me wrong, but be a quarterback factory for your own franchise. Don't try to be like the minor league team for the New York Yankees. Get your guys in there and develop them and keep them. Don't do whatever it is that you think you did with Nick Foles. But yeah, they had Von Wallace, who could definitely play safety. Taylor, they drafted, rookie linebacker from Colorado, who could definitely fit in. They've got some other speed at the wide receiver position with Hightower. Who else did they get? Quez Watkins. Hey, actually, another potential puzzle piece for the offensive line would be Prince Tega Wanago from Auburn, who slipped very heavily in the draft. So yeah, the draft was really good, but everybody focused on the Jalen Hurts pick because it was the biggest, earliest surprise of the draft in the second round. What does that mean for Carson Wentz? Is that going to put him under pressure that he didn't have before? That is going to be, because I'm not trying to stereotype Eagles fans. I'm really, really not. But I have this just the small inkling feeling that if Carson Wentz plays bad or the losses start piling up, they're going to start screaming for Jalen Hurts to take over. And not that I have an opinion on that whatsoever, but it just seems like a situation that is created for no reason at all, if you will. But I am excited to see Jalen Hurts in the next level. I hope they do more with him than just turn him into a gadget player. But he definitely adds a wrinkle to the offense that teams were going to need to prepare for. So that's very interesting. The big storyline number 2 is, of course, the offensive line. I've already talked about that at length. Where are all these puzzle pieces going to fit, and how is it going to play out through the end throughout the rest of the season? Big storyline number 3, the passing game. We've talked a lot about the wide receivers in this group. What's the deal with J.J. Arcega-Whiteside? Alshon Jeffrey, is he going to be available this year at all with the injury? How much does Deshaun Jackson have left in the tank? Jalen Reagor is going to be an explosive wide receiver, no doubt, but how well can he acclimate to the pro level in his first year? Outstanding production by rookie wide receivers are few and far between. It's not a given. They usually take 1 or 2 to get adjusted, but there have been instances in the past where you have the rookie wide receiver come in and he does really well. I've even mentioned it a couple times in these preview videos, a la Terry McLaurin and DK Metcalf last year. So that is it for the preview of the Philadelphia Eagles for the 2020 season. Thank you very much for watching. Go Wild.